maybe you were never the problem. What if I told you that what you've always called overthinking isn't actually the problem at all? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you heard someone say, "You think too much," or "just relax," or even, "You're making things more complicated than they need to be"? At first, you probably believed them. You tried to adjust. You tried to fit in. You told yourself you just needed to be more like everyone else, more calm, more simple, more normal. But something inside you never really changed, because while other people seem to move on without questioning things, you don't. You notice patterns. You pick up on contradictions. You see details that most people walk right past without even realizing they were there. You walk into a room and feel the atmosphere before anyone even says a word. You hear a sentence and immediately understand what was left unsaid. And that gets exhausting. Not because you want it to be this way, but because you can't just turn it off. So let me ask you something honestly. What if this isn't a flaw? What if the problem isn't that you think too much, but that you're seeing things most people choose not to see? Maybe what you call confusion is actually clarity in a world that prefers distraction. It's easier to live without questioning, without going deeper, without facing uncomfortable truths. But you can't do that. And that's where the tension begins. Because the more you see, the harder it becomes to pretend everything is fine. And maybe that's why you feel out of place sometimes. Not because you're lost, but because you're seeing more than others are willing to see. The weight of seeing too much. There's a part of this that almost no one talks about, and it might be the hardest part to carry. Seeing more doesn't just mean understanding more, it also means feeling more deeply than most people around you. And that can be overwhelming in ways that are difficult to explain. While others can ignore certain things and move on quickly, you can't always do that. Your mind holds on to details. It replays moments. It connects things that seem unrelated at first, but suddenly make sense when you look closer. You analyze situations long after they've ended. You revisit conversations, wondering what something really meant. You notice shifts in tone, in behavior, in energy that others seem completely unaware of. And over time, this creates a kind of exhaustion that isn't physical. It's mental, it's emotional, it's constant. Even when everything around you is quiet, your mind keeps moving, trying to understand, trying to make sense of everything it has picked up. And when you try to explain this to someone else, it rarely comes out the way you feel it. People simplify it. They tell you not to worry, or that you're overreacting, or that you're reading too much into things. But deep down, you know that's not true. You've sensed things before they became obvious. You've noticed patterns before anyone else did. And many times you were right. That's what makes it difficult, because it's not just thinking, it's perception. And perception without boundaries can become a heavy weight to carry every single day. Why you feel different? 350 words. At some point, you probably started to notice that you don't experience the world the same way most people do. It's not just about thinking more. It's about seeing things that change how everything feels, especially when it comes to relationships. You can't stay in conversations that feel empty for too long. Small talk drains you. Surface-level interactions feel tiring, almost like you're pretending to be someone you're not, just to keep things going. And emotional games. They frustrate you more than anything, because you can see through them. You notice when someone isn't being genuine. You sense when there's something hidden behind a smile or a polite response. You pick up on subtle inconsistencies that others either don't see or choose to ignore. And because of that, connecting becomes harder. Not because you don't want connection, but because it's difficult to fully engage when you feel like you're seeing behind a mask that everyone else seems comfortable accepting. This creates a quiet kind of distance. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle, constant way that's hard to explain. Because while others find comfort in simplicity, you often feel uneasy in it. But here's something important to understand. Being different doesn't mean something is wrong with you. In many cases, it simply means your level of awareness is different. The real challenge is learning how to live with that awareness without letting it isolate you or overwhelm you completely. When clarity becomes a trap, 350 words, there comes a point where seeing too much stops feeling like a strength and starts to feel like something that limits you. Because once you begin to understand patterns, you also begin to anticipate outcomes. You walk into situations already expecting how they will unfold. You predict reactions. You prepare for possibilities before they even happen. And while that can feel like control at first, over time, it changes the way you experience life. You become more cautious, more reserved, more selective about what you allow yourself to feel or trust. Not because you want to be distant, but because you've learned that not everything is as simple as it appears. But here's where things start to shift in a dangerous direction. When your focus stays on analyzing everything, you begin to miss the actual experience of living. Instead of being present, you're evaluating. Instead of feeling, you're predicting. Instead of participating, you're observing. And slowly, without realizing it, you create distance between yourself and the moment, between yourself and other people, even between yourself and your own emotions. Because not everything is meant to be understood before it's lived. Some things only make sense after you've experienced them, and when your mind is always trying to stay ahead, you lose that part of life. That's when clarity stops being helpful and starts becoming restrictive. The balance that changes everything. 350 words. This is where everything begins to change, but not in the way you might expect. The answer isn't to stop thinking, and it's not to shut down your awareness, because that's a part of who you are. The real shift comes from something much simpler, and at the same time much harder. Learning how to choose, choosing when to go deeper and when to step back, choosing when to analyze and when to let things be. Because not everything needs to be understood in order for you to move forward. Not every situation requires a complete explanation. Not every detail needs to be explored until it makes perfect sense. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is allow things to exist without trying to control or fully understand them. And that isn't weakness, it's balance. Because when you start using your awareness intentionally, instead of letting it run automatically, everything changes. You begin to notice without becoming overwhelmed. You begin to feel without getting lost in it. You begin to understand without turning every moment into something that needs to be solved. And in that space, something new appears. A sense of control that doesn't come from analyzing everything, but from knowing when to let go. And maybe for the first time, you realize something important. You were never broken. You were just trying to carry more than you needed to.